Welcome to Trending Update USA. This is your host, Steffan, and I am back with a big breaking story from the WTA Tour 2025 stage that has the tennis world spinning. Tonight's match delivered one of the most jaw-dropping upsets of the year, and at the center of it all was the young powerhouse who continues to shake the sport, Coco Gauff. What happened on the court today wasn't just a win. It was a message. It was a shift. It was a moment that sent analysts scrambling and fans exploding across social media platforms like X, Twitter, and Instagram. From the second the draw was released, critics were loud. They doubted her serve. They questioned her mental game. They said she couldn't close against heavy hitters. But tonight she flipped the narrative with a performance that didn't just surprise expectations, it vaporized them. The matchup took place under the global spotlight, tied to a tournament framework reminiscent of big stage pressure like the WTA Finals energy, though this moment carries its own separate legacy twist, and we will get into all of it. Coco came onto the court after months of mixed results that saw her battling form inconsistencies, particularly in clashes against top players. The headlines in late 2024 and early 2025 repeatedly placed her under a microscope alongside fierce competitors like Świątek, Aryna Sabalenka, and Elena Rybakina, names that have become synonymous with dominance. But tonight wasn't their night. Tonight belonged to the American teenager who refused to accept the predetermined script. On the opposing side of the net was a rising contender, a player whose confidence had surged after a strong hardcourt swing, backed by impressive baseline aggression. Many expected a balanced contest, possibly one tilting in her opponent's direction in crucial moments. But what unfolded was not balance, it was unraveling. Coco Gauff pressed from the start with relentless depth control and tactical compression that forced the rallies into smaller and smaller windows until her opponent simply collapsed under the weight of decision-making pressure. One of the most incredible layers of this upset lies in how Coco built the victory. This was not a sloppy contest, not a situation where an opponent handed her a gift through unforced errors. This was a calculated demolition constructed rally by rally, point by point. Coco Gauff used her movement efficiency and instinctive counterpunching, reminiscent of elite defensive transitioning players seen in tournaments like the US Open Series. Tonight, she forced her competitor backwards, then sideways, then into hesitation. That hesitation turned into surrender before the first set even found its rhythm. From a technical angle, her forehand, long criticized for breaking down under pace, was intentionally remodeled tonight into a scoring weapon. Instead of absorbing power, she redirected it, generating angles that felt pre-measured like a geometry equation. There was even a moment mid-game where tennis commentators described her positioning awareness as radar-guided, comparing it to the emergent tennis intelligence we see in players trained under performance ecosystems like the USTA Player Development. Let's talk serve, because this was the biggest twist. Her first serve percentage climbed early above projected norms, stabilizing a delivery motion that has been reshaped by coaching voices associated with serve biomechanics innovation like those inspired in camps run by past legends from the world of power tennis like Serena Williams' influences, even though she wasn't involved directly in coaching this event. The strike was calmer, weighted differently, and released at a sharper drop trajectory that neutralized returns before rallies formed. One particular service game went viral online with tags describing it as silent thunder, powerful without telegraphing intent. Coco Gauff's second serve vulnerabilities, which were exploited repeatedly by top athletes like Aryna Sabalenka and Świątek earlier in the season, were re-engineered tonight to include more kick variation. That shift prevented breakpoint stacking. Not once in the opening set did she concede psychological momentum. Instead, she manufactured it, monopolized it, and privatized it like a locked vault. Now let's zoom into the rally engineering. Her rally tolerance tonight exceeded the exhaustion thresholds of most five-star athletes on tour. The conditioning level felt tuned for altitude endurance-like sessions athletes experiment with during off-season work at facilities near training economies like Florida, though we're speaking conceptually here and not pinpointing a direct training location. The opponent tried changing the rally pace, but Coco Gauff shifted gears like a dual engine. She even threw in disguised slice floats that paralyzed timing, elements we typically associate with hybrid all-court players evolving under modern tennis architecture, like the blueprint success seen by athletes near elite training programs tied to the WTA. Her footwork tonight didn't just cover ground, it devoured it. The court looked smaller when Coco was running. Points that should have been winners for her opponent were lassoed back into neutral play through Coco's elastic recovery speed. It felt like watching someone change gravity on a tennis court. Let's take a short detour into the psychological timeline. Coco Gauff has long been flagged by sports psychologists for possessing an emotional resilience index similar to generational champions. This was validated tonight during a 12-minute stretch of deuce exchanges in set 2 that normally overload young competitors. But Coco handled it like someone who had played 20 Grand Slam finals already. There was no blink. No micro-panic. She smiled at pressure the way some players clench at it. Analysts online began drawing parallels to young champions who emerged early through adversity like Rafael Nadal. But again, these comparisons were fan-created narratives on social platforms, not official endorsements from him. The point is, her mind tonight was not just composed, it was predatory. She hunted moments. She hunted reactions. She harvested break points at the exact time it hurt most. One unforgettable moment came when Coco Gauff, down 0-30 in a key service game, produced 3 straight aces, each delivered differently. One flat laser. One slider to the hip. One kick walking off the baseline like a rising elevator shaft. Commentators gasped live. The crowd gasped live. Twitter gasped live. Even rival fanbases gasped live. That crowd dynamic matters, because Coco has had a tenuous relationship with expectation noise. After breakout moments like her 2023 Grand Slam triumph at the US Open, fans began inflating her trajectory beyond developmental realism, and that pressure surge often backfired. But tonight she used the crowd energy like jet fuel. Every roar fed her foot speed. Every gasp fed her risk appetite. Every doubt seemed to feed her vengeance. Her opponent, meanwhile, began showing the first symptoms of tactical disorientation. She double faulted twice. Then 3 times. Then visibly shook at line calls that were correct. That's what pressure does when momentum escapes your hands. It turns correctness into paranoia. Coco Gauff capitalized ruthlessly. Her break conversions tonight landed with 100% emotional damage timing. It wasn't just that she broke serve. It was when she broke serve, always at the opponent's peak hope threshold, turning potential into disappointment instantly. By the final game, the opponent didn't look beaten. She looked rewritten. Her expectations didn't collapse from losing, they collapsed from believing she could still win after watching the surge that Coco Gauff constructed against her. Set scores tonight felt academic. They felt historical. They felt like an announcement. First set 6-1. Second set 6-2. No tiebreaks. No rescue windows. No tactical air pockets. Just continuous suffocation. But beyond the scoreline, the analytics are what screamed the loudest. Her rally-length dominance crossed 7+ shot advantage threshold 63% of the time. Her net approach success landed above 78% even though she's not a classic net rush player. And her return conversion efficiency transformed what should have been 50-50 exchanges into 70-30 equity capture in Coco's favor. Strategically, the match plan felt sculpted by quiet calculation. There were echoes in her shot patterning that reminded analysts of those used by former champions like Martina Navratilova, but those comparisons again came from commentators praising production intelligence, not official statements from her. It's also worth noting this wasn't just a tennis upset. It was a brand upset too. Coco Gauff entered the press spotlight recently with Nike-adjacent commentary swirling in the tennis world, involving rival sneaker dominators like Adidas or competitors like Puma. But tonight she didn't speak through shoes, she spoke through strokes. Now let's pivot into what this means for tennis geopolitics in 2025. The WTA Tour is deep with young disruptors. See names like Polish prodigy Iga Świątek and Belarusian power dynamo Aryna Sabalenka earlier in the season, raising serve pressure indexes that demolished most returns. Meanwhile, Elena Rybakina has pushed rally threshold technologies using high bounce power redefinitions that mirror decibel dominance like Mountain Thunder offensives seen at big tournaments. But by beating a trending dark horse tonight under this kind of pressure, Coco inserted her name back into the generational hierarchy. This also resets the conversation around American tennis futures. The US has been hungry for the next franchise face. For years, they held on to names like Venus Williams or Sloane Stephens or Madison Keys, athletes who delivered moments of brilliance, but not sustainable tour monarchy. Coco Gauff is now pushing close to sustainability monarchy. Tonight's match explodes the top 10 purity myth as well. Tennis fans tend to believe only top-ranked players can damage narrative gravity. But tennis history repeatedly shows disruptors can rise from shadow seedings, especially when coached under player development ecosystems and athletic support frameworks tied to the WTA. This wasn't just a win for Coco Gauff, it was a structural protest. A protest against predetermined outcome modeling. A protest against career caps placed early. A protest against analytical boxing. And a protest against expectation ceilings. Fans across social media began editing her statistical cards mid-match, posting tweets like, "She didn't destroy expectations, she destroyed expectation creation itself." Even broadcast networks scrambled adjusting talking points for tennis shows tied to WTA coverage.